Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Lucy Superfox Show. My name is Lucy Superfox. This is my channel podcast, place for you to hang out with me. So we think we have figured out the microphone. We think that the sound is better this time. We had to put some code into my Mac and all is well. So thank you so much to Charlie, who does all my editing. Don't forget, if you ever need an editor for anything virtual digital, you can drop me an email, lucy@lucysuperfox.com, and I will fire you his details. I don't want him to be inundated and not have time for me. So I will screen and share the details. But let's dive into today's episode, because I'm going to share with you some magical stories, some stories of when I manifested some of the most magical experiences of my life. These are the experiences that even I couldn't believe happened. These are the experiences that I was like, you are freaking kidding me. Because I think so much of what happens with manifestation is it becomes about stuff, it becomes about things, it gets mixed up in hustle culture as like achievement, and we call it manifesting, and they are completely different things. They're completely different energies. But ultimately, what I want to share with you today is how I manifested some of the most amazing things I have in my life today. And then in the future episodes, I'm going to dive into the 5 steps to magic manifestation. But today I am going to wisdom drop with you right at the end of this podcast, the number one thing I see blocking people from manifesting their desires. So make sure to stay tuned all the way to the end for that. So my first magic manifestation story, and I thought today I would share with you some around money, some around love, and some around business, because I know that they are the 3 things we're here for. So the first one is, let's talk about love. Let's talk about my relationship with my current husband. So if you've been following me for a while, you'll know that I've talked about the relationship I have with my husband as being something that is really different. It's something I've never experienced in a romantic relationship before. We are truly the best of friends, and not mates who live together. We are the best of friends. We have a deep, intimate connection. We are soul aligned, we feel things and sense things with each other before they even happen. And so this relationship and how it came to be was not intentional. It was a total accident, although it was absolutely an intentional manifestation of mine. And I'll let him take some credit for manifesting me. And he is a magic manifester, to be fair to him. I always say this to my clients. He is the guy who just holds the space, moves with intention, and everything falls to him. And not for a lack of commitment to the manifestation or lack of self-belief, but honestly, and this is why I'm going to share with you the number one block right at the end, he has got it down. And so actually I will give him some credit for manifesting me. But if we first start with how I believe I manifested or was ready and available for him. So first up, I'm very honest about the fact that I was married when I was in a relationship with someone else when I met my now husband. But I was married when I realized that I had feelings for my now husband. And I'm honest about that because, one, I don't hold any shame about it. Love is love, and who we have feelings for sometimes can't be helped. What we do about it, sure, but how we feel about it can't be helped. And so that's why I share that with honesty. So we already knew each other, but he was somebody I knew, and that was it. Now, I manifested my ex-husband 1,000,000%. So I came out of a very kind of trauma-bonded relationship when I was 25. This was around the time where I was recovering from toxic shock as well. And I'll be totally honest, I was completely fried. I was emotionally spent. Now I know my nervous system was, absolutely broken. My immune system was haywire because of the toxic shock. And I was just a broken woman. And I decided at this point that there was just no freaking way in hell I was going to put myself through any experience like that ever again. I mean, the irony that I then did it in business is just still sometimes blows my mind. I decided and committed at that point that I was never going to do that again in a relationship, that I was never going to put myself and my self-worth and my sense of being on the line for somebody else. And so I made the decision at that point to write a list of all the things I wanted in a man. Now, that was not to say that I wouldn't date anybody who didn't have all those things, but I would make my decisions about serious commitments based on those things, because it wasn't about them ticking my criteria, but it was about me saying, you know what, if it's not all there, then I'm not going to be fulfilled, and therefore we're not going to be right for each other. And the second part of it was, if I'm writing all these things on my list, if all these things I want in a man, then I have to be all of these things. So if I want someone who's kind and empathetic and generous, then I need to be kind, empathetic, and generous. And if I want somebody who takes care of themselves and nourishes their body, then I need to take care of myself and nourish my body. So this list was twofold. One, a sense of what I knew I had to be, because I already knew on an instinctive level, before I really even understood manifestation, that you need to be a match for something, right? It's about what you're a match for. You know, when you call people a perfect match, it's because they are a match. And so even on that conscious level, I knew that. So I wrote this list with the intention of a kind of a roadmap to the relationship I wanted, but B, as something that I wanted to set for myself as who I wanted to become. And so I made the decision, wrote this list. I had a pin board. I had a small room in a house at that point. And so I didn't have my own house or anything. And so I had this small pin board. So I didn't have a lot of room, but I wrote this list and I folded it up, but I pinned it on the board. Anyway, I actually moved out of that room and moved into a bigger house with a friend 3 months later. And so everything kind of got packed away. I reopened the pin board or anything. The new house I moved into was a weird layout, didn't have a lot of space in the walls. Anyway, fast forward another 9 months, I meet this guy, and there was just something about him that the first time I met him, I actually remember saying to my friend, and she'd validate this to this day, I'm going to marry him. And which is wild because we'd never even been on a date. And I said, I'm going to marry him. He's my future husband. It was like I knew, right? Fast forward. We went on our first date. And not only did it turn out he had all of the things on that list, although at this point I was unconscious of the list. I had forgotten consciously about the list. Turned out we had the same birthday. And that was like wild for me. That completely blew my brain. I was like, what? Made him show me his ID and everything. And he was exactly 1 year older than me. And our relationship then really blossomed from there. Less than 6 months later, we decided to get a place together. And we were sure, we were dead sure, and that we wanted to be together. And, you know, he was looking to buy and I had, you know, a really good salary. So between us, we could buy a place, and we bought a place together in kind of London suburbs. And it was at that point that obviously I packed and unpacked and repacked and cleared out, and I found the list. And I remember finding the list and being like, holy shit. And he was literally everything on that list. And look, I like to keep my ex-husband, anonymous for his benefit, because, you know, he has a whole other life now and partner and goodness knows what else. But the criteria I had on that list, he was every single one. And so why I'm telling you this, even though we're not together, is because I held the intention to, one, be a match for that thing, and two, to hold space and trust that it would come. And it came in the most surprising way. I didn't go on dating apps. I didn't look for it. We met at an event that we were both in. So it was actually a fitness competition. We met in a fitness competition we were both competing at. So again, two people aligned with the same desires, the same wants, the same level of understanding. We were a match, right? And he happened to have all the other things on the list. So fast forward a few years, and we did get a house, get a dog, get engaged, get married. And it was not long after we got married it was before we got married, that things weren't great between us. And we made the decision to officially separate. And I then pursued my relationship with my now husband. He pursued a relationship with somebody else. And here we are, you know, nearly 7 years later, right? So yeah, 7 years later, 7 years later. The timing's always forward, 7 years later. But what was so fascinating to me is that if I was to look back at that list now, there were lots of things on that list that, looking back, are things I thought I wanted. But then when I changed my mind about what I wanted, my relationship no longer worked. So the reason that my relationship ended was not over some dramatic event or because we, went in two massively different directions, but because what I wanted changed as I evolved and grew. What he wanted changed and grew. But the point was, we were still the match to who we were. Even though we were changing, we were a match for what the other person used to want, right? So that's why there was no longer room for him in my life, because he was what I used to want. There were parts of him I used to want. And when we change what we want, we change what we're available for, right? And that's why our environment sometimes will shake us up in the worst way possible, because it will take things from us in a dramatic way. It will blow things up, because it knew that we know that we would never walk away from a relationship that was steady or safe. So it has to blow it up. Bang, here's a big dramatic event to blow it up for you. Often happens the same way in your business, often happens the same way with money. It's often sometimes the only way we'll learn, right? Great analogy from spiritual teachers Abraham Hicks that says, sometimes you need a house fire to move house. Sometimes the only thing that will get you going is something that will set your ass on fire. And that is exactly what happened. And so I look now, and although I never wrote an intentional list of my current husband, what he has is all the things that I changed, I wanted. There are similarities between them for sure, but the person he is, the type of person he is, the things that he wants, the way that he wants them is so different. And that was the way I shifted. Now, does it mean me and my current husband are a perfect exact match? No, we never are, right? We're our own people. But what I found so beautiful about that experience was that there was not that I was with the wrong person or I married the wrong person, but simply that what I changed and what I changed what I wanted. And when he changed what he wanted, we were no longer a match. And so sometimes we get so hung up on the fact that we created something or manifested something or something happened for us that we have to stick to it. But you reserve the right to change your mind. You reserve the right to manifest something and then go, that didn't feel how I thought it was going to feel. Okay, next. You reserve the right in any of your experiences or manifestation creations to not be happy when it happens, to get to it and go, this isn't what I wanted, because we get so caught up in what we thought we wanted and what the right thing to do is and what the next thing to do is, or what the younger version of us used to want, that sometimes we forget that we are growing and evolving. Well, when we're intentionally growing and evolving, and therefore what we want changes. For a long time, I had such an attachment to the house I lived in and the car I drove. And what's crazy is I live in that house, I drive that car, and they're great, but I could let them go tomorrow, right? Because, and again, spiritual teacher Abraham Hicks would say, your manifestations, when they happen, will keep you happy for maybe a day, and then you're on to the next thing. And that is because the joy of manifestation is actually in the creation process. It's actually in the process of becoming the person that you want to be, becoming the person who has the thing. That's where the joy is, it's where the energy is, it's where, and I was listening to Abraham Hicks this morning, and this is why this comes up. They said you would always rather be in a fast flowing river than you would a stagnant pond, even if you're flowing up the river the wrong way. And that is so true. We are such energetic beings that if we arrive at the manifestation and it becomes a stagnant pond, we're like, oh, is this it? And actually the biggest, most beautiful, most amazing part of manifestation isn't the box ticking or the arrival. It's actually the process of becoming. This is why my inner transformation to outer manifestation course is called Becoming, because it's about becoming the person we want to be, having the things we want to have by becoming the match for that thing through healing, through growth, through development. So my current marriage was an evolution of the things that I wanted. Our marriage is constantly evolving. Our relationship is constantly evolving based on both of us shifting and changing and what it is we desire from life, desire from each other, desire from the world around us. And what's beautiful is I manifested a person who is open and adaptable and excited by that, and who loves manifestation and who loves change, right? And so that I have to roll with that river, right? So manifesting those two partners has given me such a sense of perspective around manifestation. And one of them being that you reserve the right to change your mind anytime. So let's talk now about money and some of my most magic money manifesting moments. So one of my favorite moments, which feels like one of the ones that you sometimes just have to laugh at, is one where I manifested. Well, there's two actually. I'm going to share two with you. So one of these I've shared a few times, and that is the story of when I had really, really, really figured out and understood that we always get what we're a vibrational match for. And I had worked out what my financial kind of minimum expectation was a month, not what was predicted based on, my business, because my business actually at that time was kind of in an up and down place, both in my net marketing, both in my coaching, as in like, I was very like launch something and then take a step back and then push something. And so my income wasn't steady. And also in network marketing, your income's actually never steady. It's always about the sales of the previous month, right? So you never really know what your paycheck's going to be. So I had an idea, because I was looking back at the years and I was going, okay, we've been making, 10 to 12K a month for the last 3 years. This is clearly what we're available for, right? And I remember this so freaking well. Yeah, because it was 2021. And I remember this month so much. I remember laughing so much. I've been making, 10K plus months, but the minimum was really ever 10K. And if it went less than that, it was normally because an invoice was slightly late, right? It was always kind of, from maybe some consultancy or a client asked for a payment plan or something, but it was always kind of around the 10K mark. Anyway, January 2022, Yeah, that does make sense. I always remember what house I'm in. Does anyone else do that? If you've moved a lot, you always remember what house you're in, and that gives you a timeline. January 2022, it was the last day before the end of the month. So it was 30th of January. And there was only like something, I remember being like, oh, this month has been so weird. There's only like 5.5K come in this month. That's so weird. I knew my energetic minimum was 10K, like it always has been. That's how I've kind of built my business and maintained it. Granted, it would flip between 10 and 15 and I could never get it over 15 and it drove me fucking crazy. But I knew that that's what I was available for because, and again, people who are on salary sometimes struggle to wrap their head around this, but we always get what we're available for. We always get what's normal. And so this would be normal for me. So don't let these numbers take you out. This is the same as your 2.5. This is the same as your 5K a month. So, and I'm telling you, because I'm transparent about numbers because I want to empower people to know that you can make 10K feel really fucking normal. Okay. So January 2022, end of the month, somewhere between 5.5 and 6, but basically I was about 5K short from what I was like, this is so fucking weird. This has never happened. How has this happened? You know, what energy have I been in? Where have I told a story that things are difficult or bad or not working? You know, where have I got attached to a narrative that is holding me back this month? And so I was really doing my inner work and I was like, this is so interesting. And there was nothing coming up for me. I thought, this is just so freaking weird. And obviously when you're expecting a certain amount of money, it's not coming. You create that kind of sense of stress, right? You're like, why is this not happening? And I got a call from my mum and she said, hey, her and my dad were separating and buying separate houses, and my parents still get on very, very well. Not that that's any context, but what I mean was this wasn't a painful experience. Although leaving the house was very sad for them, we'd lived there since I was like 16. This was an amicable, mutual decision. So it wasn't this heart-wrenching moment when mum phoned me, and she phoned me to say, listen, obviously the house is all completed and everything. We obviously want to be smart and we'd like to give you 5K inheritance. I laughed my freaking head off. This was on the last day of January. Now, she could have sent me this money anytime. I think the house completed a couple of weeks before that. She could have sent me that 2 weeks before. She could have sent me that 2 weeks later. She could have had this conversation with me 3 months' time. But she phoned me on that day to give me that amount, which was the amount that would have helped me cross my energetic minimum threshold. And so I share that story because we often get so attached to how the money comes. We get so attached to the money coming through our work and through our business. And this is what feeds hustle culture, right? More. Like lack, must work harder, must work more to get more money. And again, I've talked about this at length inside, the Relaxed Transformation Masterclass. I've talked about this in all my free stuff, and especially inside the Becoming program. I make more money now and work less. I make more money now and work less. I don't have any more followers than I had 2 years ago. My Instagram flatlined. I haven't really grown a very big social media TikTok at the time of recording this. My YouTube is not massive. I record this podcast for love and because I do it, because this is an expression of my soul, but I work less and make more. And that is because that is what the relaxed way feels like. That is what it's like to manifest with ease, with trust, with flow, and with intention. And so what happened in this story is such a powerful reminder that money does not flow through effort, that money does not flow through hard work, that money does not flow through clients and customers and sales, that money flows through whatever the path of least resistance is. It flows through wherever it can find a way, wherever you're not telling a bullshit story, wherever it feels safe to your nervous system. And so that's why I always love to tell this story, because I think it's one that really, really resonates that. The second money story I want to share with you is when we moved into this house. Now, I was in a really great place with money head-wise. We moved into this house. We moved into this house 5 months later after that story in June 2022. And I was in even though I was in the depths of my healing journey and there was a lot of emotional work that I was doing on myself, I felt like I was kind of losing myself a bit. But my relationship with money, strangely, was in a really good place. And I think because I'd been paying an extortionate amount of rent. It was extortionate in context, right? Of rent in where we live just outside in London suburbs, that when I came here and then started paying, half that in a mortgage fee, I was like that. One, I'm paying down a mortgage because I had a really great rate. So, I was paying at least £1,200 of my mortgage without interest every single month. One, I was paying down my mortgage. Two, I actually had my own house. And I was like, oh, thank God, renting for 3 years. And we had a lot of fuckery with landlords. And so I kind of set the sense of freedom. When I got here, I also bought the car I'd always wanted. Well, I didn't know I'd always wanted it. The car I'd wanted for a period of time. I traded in my Mercedes. I got my Jaguar. And I just was so in such a great, abundant place when I moved here. Anyway, I had my first 23K month in September 2022. And in October 2022, I manifested and this still blows my mind to this day. I manifested 10K out of fucking nowhere. So, and again, I'm reluctant to tell this story. I have to be careful how I tell this story. But let me just say, there were a couple of issues with my house. And although they weren't major issues, basically they didn't want complaints. And so they basically said, if we fix the issues and issue compensation for 10,000, can we basically roll with this? And my answer was, of course. So I didn't request this. I didn't ask for this. I didn't ask for this money to appear. I didn't ask for anyone to give me 10K. I hadn't set an intention for it, but I was open to receiving. I was in the energy of abundance. I was in the energy of more than enough. I was in the energy of it gets to flow. It gets to be easy because I just had a really great month. And it was at this point, and I remember getting that. And then the money was just in my bank like 10 days later. I didn't chase it. I didn't have to issue an invoice. And I was like, what the actual fuck? And so again, another story of where money doesn't flow through hard work and effort, where when you are an open channel to receive, you will receive through the strangers of places. This is how lottery wins happen. This is how your odd little tinkle on the gamble happens. This is how you find £20 on the street. This is how you end up with inheritance in someone's will that you never even met. Like, this is how this shit happens. And that really was a powerful lesson for me in remembering that it's not about hard work and it's not about effort. It's about being a vibrational match for the things that you desire. Now, I had a destination for that 10K. I had held intention for what I wanted a lump sum of money for and where I wanted to spend that money and invest that money. And it was something I had an intention for, but I didn't intend to get it from where I got it from. I hadn't got a how, I hadn't got a plan. I was just holding space for it. And because I was in the energy of abundance, I was in the energy of more than enough because of how I'd created that level of money the month before, which was more than kind of what my standard month was. I was an open channel to receive. And so this has really been where my greatest lessons around money lie, is that money is not about the number of hours you work. It's not about your hourly rate. It's not about how many clients you have. It's about what you are energetically, vibrationally, emotionally, mentally, and physically available for on a financial level. It's what you can understand. It's what you can wrap your head around. It's what feels safe to your nervous system. It's what feels like a desire without feeling like you're being strangled. It's what feels good and activating without feeling dysregulating and throwing you into fight or flight. It's about what feels like yes, fuck yes energy and staying in that energy. And what happens with money is we often either try to go too fast or we go too slow. And when we go too slow, we're not in that fast flowing river and it's not exciting. And when we go too fast, our nervous system snaps us back every single time and says, you can't do that, you can't be that, that's not safe, boom. And then we get what we were available for in the first place and we believe it doesn't work. We attach stories to that and says manifestation's bollocks or we're not good enough. And we go round and round and round and round and round. And so this is why inside the mini manifesting bundle that is actually on sale for March, guys, you can get it in the shop, lucyfox.com/shop, half price for the month of March, manifesting month. It's my husband's birthday. He's a magic manifester. So you've got it on sale. Thanks to my husband for the whole month. But this is what I teach inside there is around that we always get what we're available for. So changing what we're available for is the key to becoming a manifesting magnet. So that's money. That is love. One of the big ones I want to share with you, and the final one really for today, is business. And there's two stories attached to this. And what I always like to make clear is these are manifestations that came about through my network marketing business that currently is not my number one focus. Like my coaching is where my head's at and my heart's at and what's alive within me. But was a season in my life that was really important to me, and a season in my life that led me to so many lessons and so much great stuff and so much progress, but it just isn't something that feels alive within me right now. And that's the honest truth. But what happened was this was a real symbol for me where your wounds can be your greatest reflection of what needs to heal within you in order to have your desires. So one of the big kind of achievements that Inside Network Marketing is often being asked to speak at events. And as somebody who loves the sound of our own voice, as you know, but more than that, somebody who loves to express herself, has a deeply powerful connection with live audiences, who absolutely, loved being a presenter of fitness shows for nearly, 8 years, who was a performer in teen school, and nearly went to drama school. it is an expression of my soul, right? So when I present or MC or host or speak, I'm just expressing a gift that I hold within me, and one that feels alive and brings me joy. So of course, for me, being asked to speak at, significant events with big audiences was an important part of the process. Now, I actually remember, despite achieving radically fast success by 2020, not being asked to speak, and I really felt like I deserved it. And I remember feeling really bitter and really kind of like about it, really fucked off about it. But then within a month, I realized that actually I wasn't really in the energy of being a speaker. I wasn't in the energy of being solid or calm, or I was completely fried. After achieving some massive goals in business in 2020, my nervous system took a massive hit. I mean, in fact, one particular day where we had a big goal to achieve, someone actually thought I was having a heart attack because I was so stressed. And that energy for me, looking back on that time, I feel sad about that time because I wasn't able to enjoy the fruits of my labor and the success because of how fried I got in the process. So of course I was going to be bitter. I was in a low energy state. My nervous system was constantly in kind of fight flight, in that kind of oversympathetic nervous system, super activated. Everything was about fear and triggering. We were in the middle of the pandemic, right? So we all know what that did to our nervous systems anyway. And I remember reflecting on that and thinking, you know what? It's fine. Right now, I just need to focus on me. And by doing that and by working out why I was triggered and what I was bitter about, I was able to reflect on the fact that I wanted to feel like my hard work had been worth it, and I didn't feel like that. And that was the lesson. And I reflected back on all my work and where my worth was conditional. I did a lot of work on that. And I really just continued to be the person that I believed I wanted to be inside this organization. And I stood up for what I believed in, and I was willing to speak my truth, even if it wasn't what people wanted to hear. But what happened next is something that to this day I am forever grateful for the head office team and my network marketing business, for leaders who are, in my success line above me, who believed in me. But what happened next to this day will still be one of the most beautiful manifestations of my existence. And that was, I went from not being asked to speak for more than, 2 minutes to share my story, to being the keynote speaker for the UK in 2021. In 2022, getting the privilege to speak at multiple events. In 2023, getting to speak in Maui. So to the heads of all, basically the top of the organization, there's an annual leadership retreat, speaking in Maui, sharing my opinions and my views, how we should do something. In July 2023, speaking in Las Vegas in front of, and I don't know the exact numbers in the end, but somewhere around 8,000 people, live 8,000 people in the MGM Arena. And in 2023 and 2024, hosting with my gorgeous friends wellness events that honestly were everything that we wanted them to be and more. And so I look back at that time in 2020 when I felt burnt and bitter, and I am so glad that I addressed what was being triggered within me so that I could become a vibrational match to being the powerful, confident leader, the one who spoke her truth, the one that was, unabashedly proud of what she had achieved, but also was unwilling to bend to the cultures that other people wanted her to. And that ultimately became part of the problem, was that there were ways that things had been done that I didn't want to do them like that anymore. And there's only so much one can fight on their own, right? But those manifestations, the speaking in Vegas, I have a picture and I'll pop it up on this video if I can find the one on my vision board, and the one on the thing, which I think I've got, is I had a picture on my vision board, and it wasn't a Vegas and it didn't have any company logos on it. It was just a picture of a girl who had a long blonde pony, and she's wearing kind of a slightly blacklist dress, and she's holding a mic, and you can just see there's a big audience in front of her. And again, that was more about holding the intention and space to be somebody who could speak on stages, rather than I'm going to speak in Las Vegas in front of 8,000 people. This is what I mean about holding space for an intention versus having specific goals. And when I spoke in Vegas, I didn't know that there would be a boom camera behind me, and the boom camera floated behind me and captured the exact image of my vision board. Now, her hair wasn't in a pony and I wasn't holding a handheld mic, but the vision and the experience was the same. And when I saw that image, I cried so freaking hard. Not because my speech was particularly amazing. I mean, in Vegas, I was talking about products, but because that is a real experience of when you hold space to become someone, to step into the energy of being someone, to be someone people can count on if that's relevant to your version of this, that's when it happens. It doesn't happen when you want it. It doesn't happen when you stomp your feet and say, I deserve it. It doesn't happen when you say, I've wanted this for ages. Why isn't it happening now? It happens when you become a match for it. It happens when you become, it's no big deal. It happens when you are, sure, excited about it, but not when it stresses out your nervous system. It happens when you become a magnet for the things that you want because they just feel normal. They just feel like, of course. They just feel like, yes. And so all of the stories I've shared with you today, love, money, business, they are all things that happened because they just felt like, of course. And so the way to becoming the person who is a match for the thing, becoming the manifesting magnet, becoming the of course, is by doing the work that I teach you inside the mini manifesting bundle, which again, half price, or inside the becoming program. So you can find out both. I'll put the links below inside this, wherever you're watching this, inside the show notes. But I want you to know that my most magic manifestation stories, all 4 of those that I reference and play back and remind myself of all the time, are not ones where I set goals and hustled hard and focused on them. Sure, there were things that meant that those things could happen because of the work that I did, because of a title I held, because of the place I was in, because someone asked me this opportunity. Of course, that's how any manifestation works, but not a single one of those manifestations came because I hustled my ass off, burnt myself out, and crushed myself to the core. They happened because I became a vibrational match for the things that I desired. So in next week's episode, we are going to be diving into the 5 steps of magic manifestation. So make sure to stay tuned. Let me know what you thought about this episode. Let me know what you thought about my stories. Make sure to share this with anybody you think would love it. And if you've got a minute, leaving a review would make my day. So have the most beautiful rest of week. And don't forget, you can get the mini manifesting bundle half off for the whole of March at lucysuperfox.com/shop. And I'll see you all on the next episode. Bye.